Excited we are about you guys heading back down under to Australia. I saw you the last time you were in Melbourne, and you guys had
Nice.
such an amazing show, and it looked like you had so much fun. How do you feel about heading back to Oz?
Well, I mean, Australia's always been one of our best territories, one of our best countries to come through. It's always been United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia. So this is our fifth tour that we've done since 2006. And obviously, we were postponed a bit for obvious reasons. But now that we're coming back, I mean, this tour was always built to be the start of regular tours of Australia maybe every 2 years or something, and make a real plan to grow in Oz, because it's always been like I said, it's always been such a great home for us. And as it stands, this is going to be our biggest co-headlining tour that we've ever had with Buck Cherry, and we're excited, man. Everybody who knows our band knows what to expect. People that have never seen Fozzy are in for a real treat, and it's always great because it's the only country and the only band in the world that whenever we come over, we get a Fozzy, 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 oi, oi, oi chant. And that's pretty special to us.
It
No one
is.
else can get that.
And you have such loyal fans here as well. I know when I was at the show in Melbourne, I was talking to a lot of guys that have been with you guys since the very start. Does that mean a lot to you that so many Aussies have been there for your band from the very, very early days right through to today?
It does, and it's always cool to me. I ask every show, how many people here have seen Fozzy before, and there's usually a really good, reaction. And those are people that have been there for the long term, and whether maybe it's been, for example, in Australia, maybe it's been 15 years, or maybe it's been 10 years, or maybe they came last time we were in town. And then the other question I ask is how many people here are seeing Fozzy for the first time, and that's usually the other half of the crowd, which is also a great sign because it shows that the name value of the band is growing to where people want to come and check out the gigs. So you take care of both levels of fans. I mean, that's very important. We always, especially since we've had such success over the last few years on radio in the States, and you can always see, the counts of the videos. So there's a lot of newer songs that we have to play, but we still always include Enemy. And for example, we're doing Spider in My Mouth this tour, and Martyr No More. And those songs might not be as familiar to the newer fans, but to fans that have been there for 10, 12 years, it's important for them to hear those tunes as well. So we're in a very cool position, an enviable position, in that we have a great fan base that's been there for the long term, and there's also a huge fan base that's been here for the short term. So you take care of both, and I think if you can do that, you'll always have great gigs.
I was actually going to ask that. You've got so many amazing tracks now in your back catalogue. Is it getting more difficult to put together set lists these days?
It is, and I always kind of look to Metallica and Iron Maiden and bands like that because they switch up their sets. Metallica does it every night, and so do the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is great. Maiden is a little bit more regimented in doing the same set the whole tour, and that's the kind of the way that we are with the production that we have, and with the video playing in the background and stuff. But Maiden changes their set every tour, and it's very important to do that because listen, this tour we're not doing Sandpaper, for example. We've done that song for I guess 12, 13 years, and it's a great song, but sometimes it's okay to drop one or two of your bigger songs to add new songs and to add some of the older songs. And then next tour, we'll put it back into the set. So once again, we're in a great position where we have a lot of, how do you judge how big songs are nowadays? Well, you go on YouTube and see how many millions of views the videos have.
Yep.
And that kind of is a good barometer to find out what songs are your biggest ones, and you kind of want to stick to playing most of those, but you don't have to play all of them, especially if you only had three, that's fine, but when you have 6 or 8 or 10 songs that all have 2, 3, 4, 10, 60 million views, you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want to do.
Yeah, you mentioned before about the last couple of years having to postpone shows and things like that. What was the pandemic like for you during that time, not being able to get out there and play live music? It was tough on the fans, but what was it like for you personally?
Well, Obviously, it sucked. In the words of Cinderella, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I don't think people just realized how important concerts are. And that doesn't go for just playing them, going to concerts. I mean, I've been to probably, gosh, I don't know, 30 shows this year, maybe more. Because I love going to see gigs, and it's very cathartic, and it's just fun. So not being able to go to shows was very hard, and not being able to play shows was hard as well. And I think it hurt a lot of bands. And there was a lot of bands that put records out during the pandemic that couldn't tour on them. I'm still thinking about AC/DC Power Up. Like, that's probably my favorite modern day AC/DC record since Razor's Edge, maybe. And they haven't played one of those songs live, and it's been 2 years since that record came out. So it's almost like, well, fuck. I'm glad you put it out, but it's almost like, I mean, obviously AC/DC can go and tour whenever they want and play whatever they want, but there were other bands that were really hurt by that, putting out records during pandemics, and it's like, we didn't want to do that. So, for example, with Boombox, it was ready to go since May of 21, and we didn't release it until May of 22, and it was mixed, mastered, and ready to go. But what do? You can't put it out because you can't go play live anywhere. You can't go to radio stations to promote it. So if you're not at AC/DC's level, these records came and went. We didn't want that to happen. So there was a lot of just sitting around and waiting, which was not cool. And then also too, when the pandemic started winding down, the way people went to shows was different. At first, we had a lot of tickets sold, and then a lot of people just weren't showing up because they weren't ready yet. Then nobody was buying tickets at all because they were worried, would the band show up? Is there going to be murder hornets coming, or what's going to happen? And then people were buying like hundreds of tickets day of the show, which never happens either. So it was interesting to see kind of how everything got back on track again, and it's still kind of righting itself, but I'd say we're probably 80% there at this point. And once again, that's why it's so great to be able to come to Australia, because there were so many restrictions even a year ago or 6 months ago where it just didn't work, and now it's wide open and we're ready to rock. And I think you guys are as well.
Definitely. What was that first show like for you when you went back playing? I've spoken to people who said that they cried. Some said they were really, really nervous. What was that first show like for you when you stepped back out on the stage after the pandemic?
See, I wasn't nervous because we were wrestling with AEW the whole time because we had to do it. We were wrestling in front of nobody, literally no people, which was tough. But we were around each other, and we were still going through airports and stuff. And you realize, okay, if you stick your head out the door, your head's not going to explode. And once you kind of realize that, it made things so much easier to be out and touring. So. When we went out again, there was still a lot of people that were against it. That we were one of the first bands to go back out, and there was a lot of people like, "Oh, you are a super spreader, and you're gonna, destroy the world." And we were like, "Dude, if you don't want to go to the show, just don't go. Like, there's an opportunity to play, and everybody's into it. If you don't want to go, to each their own." And I've always been that way with pandemic wise. So the first gig we played was fucking great because it was jam packed, and it was just fun to be out on stage with your friends. I mean, you can't ever deny how special that is, and just the vibe of live music. And live music is very healing.
Yep.
And I think, playing those shows, and as the months went on, more bands were playing, more people were feeling comfortable. And you still see some people wearing masks at shows. And that's great. Like I said, whatever you feel is cool with me, but they're coming to the shows, and that's all that matters. So, but I'm just glad that everybody's kind of enjoying being back on stage and going to see bands on stage, because it's very, very important, and it was much missed.
Definitely. Now, Chris, this is a bit of a left field question, but I'm looking at that marvelous collection behind you, and ironically, my parents bought me a Chris Jericho pop vinyl for my last birthday. What is it like when you see a figurine of yourself? That must be a pretty weird experience.
Well, I mean, not to sound jaded, but I mean, you're dealing with 25 years of seeing figures of myself, and there's literally hundreds of them. So it's always cool. I mean, it's cool to collect them. It's cool when people bring them to get signed. And there's also a lot that you don't ever really see. Like, people think, oh, that there's like this Chris Jericho bowling ball over here. Like, it took me years to get a Chris Jericho bowling ball. No one ever sent me one. You know,
Wow.
so how the fuck do you get a bowling ball? Like someone gives you one at a gig. Well, now I got to throw this in my bag. It weighs 50 pounds. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, you know, there is a lot of merch like that that's out there. But once again, it's always cool to see whether it's video games or whether it's Pop Funko figures or whether it's action figures or micro brawlers or, you know, ice cream bars, whatever the hell it is. It's always cool to see.
Now, bringing it back to the tour, we had the guys from Buckcherry on our show last week, and they were so full of praise for you. How do you feel being able to tour with Buckcherry?
Excited. I mean, we've done a few tours with Buckcherry before. We've even been to Australia with Buckcherry and Steel Panther back in 2013. The cool thing is that was a Panther tour. This one is a Fozzy Buckcherry co-headlining tour, and we're really excited. It's the biggest, you know, co-headlining tour we've ever had in Australia. And it's a great mix. They're a great rock and roll band. And that's, you know, we are both of the same mindset as a band that when you come to our show or a Buckcherry show, people are going to have a great time. It really is a rock and roll party. That's not just a cliche. The vibe is through the roof. And I can't think of a better rock show that I'd like to see other than Fozzy and AC/DC, but that would not be a co-headlining show. So I think it's perfect for us. And the moment it was pitched, which was probably almost 2 years ago because of everything that happened, I was all for it. And now that we're almost here, to see that the shows are getting close to selling out, and some of them are going to be sold out probably by the time we get on the plane, that's just a good sign. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do our set and tear the house down and then grab a drink and watch Buckcherry do the same.
Definitely. Well, mate, we are right out of time, but just before we go, what would you like to say to all of your fans out there who are heading along to the shows?
Hey, everybody who's seen Fozzy before know what you're going to get, and if you haven't seen Fozzy, you're coming to the show, bring a helmet, because it's going to be a lot of fun, man. So, like I said, only country in the world and only band in the world where you can hear a Fozzy, oi, oi, oi chant, and that's worth its weight in gold, worth its weight in gold for us as a band and for everybody that comes to see us. So we'll be there less than a week. We're looking forward to it.
Awesome.